We've got a theme song. I'd like to extend a special thank you to Chaotic Resemblance for letting us use their song Son of Man. And if you get an opportunity, definitely check them out. They're on YouTube, Facebook, all the regular social media sites. They're a great band and definitely deserve some love.
The lights go down when we hit the stage. The harder that the crowd begins to raise. The people in the chairs all take a stand. We're rocking and rolling for the Son of Man. Rocking and rolling, yeah.
Chayei Sarah, or the life of Sarah, comes to us from Genesis chapter 23 verse 1 through chapter 25 verse 18. So let's go ahead and look at this week's Torah portion, which is called the life of Sarah, and we'll start at the beginning in Genesis chapter 23 verses 1 through 2. Sarah lived 127 years. These were the years of the life of Sarah. And Sarah died at Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, in the land of Canaan. And Abraham went in to mourn for Sarah and to weep for her. So there you go. I'm the Messianic Torah dude. Shalom, and stay in the Word. Okay. I'll actually do a drash this week. So why is this week's Torah portion called the life of Sarah, when it begins with the death of Sarah? Well, the obvious reason is because the Torah portion is usually named after one of the first words or phrases that appear in it, but there's more to it than just that. You see, I think from this week's Torah portion we kind of learn a lot of things about the life of Sarah, not by the time she spent alive, but by the legacy she left behind, the indelible marks she left on the people around her. And what I mean by this is, let's continue at the beginning of this passage in Genesis chapter 23, starting in verse 3. And Abraham rose up from before his dead and said to the Hittites, he was living in the land of the Hittites, I am a sojourner and foreigner among you. Give me property among you for a burying place, that I may bury my dead out of my sight. The Hittites answered Abraham, Hear us, O Lord, you are a prince of God among us. Bury your dead in the choicest of our tombs. None of us will withhold from you the tomb to hinder you from burying your dead. Abraham rose and bowed to the Hittites, the people of the land, and he said to them, If you are willing that I should bury my dead out of my sight, hear me and entreat me for Ephron the son of Zohar, that he may give me the cave of Machpelah, which he owns. It is at the end of his field. For the full price, let him give it to me in your presence as a property for a burying. So here, Avram is wanting to buy a tomb. Even though the people offer to give it to him, he wants to spend money. He sort of wants to make that sacrifice. And part of that is probably because he wants to make sure he outright owns the cave of Machpelah where Sarah will be buried. He wants to make sure that her final resting place is somewhere secure. But there's also the fact that it shows how much Abraham loved her. If he didn't care, then he would have been willing to take the free cave, and if something went wrong, if the relationship with the Hittites fell apart later, they may take it back, they may decide to put unclean things in the tomb, they may decide to do a whole bunch of things. But when the land is his outright, he can make sure that her final resting place is remembered. He can make sure that that memorial for her is set. So we see that part of Sarah's legacy is the love that she and Abraham shared. Likewise, our life is more than just the years that we walk this earth. It's the way that we love the people around us. And when I'm talking about love, I'm not talking about romantic hearts and Valentine's love. I'm talking about the genuine love that comes from loving like Yeshua loved. Loving in this self-sacrificing caring for somebody. The love we show for people will last for generations because that love is passed on and it's multiplied. And this godly love, the Greek word is agape love, is something that will forever remain. It's something we can invest our time and our energy into, knowing that it is an investment that will outlive us. In Genesis chapter 24, verses 10 through 14, we get kind of another hint about what kind of legacy or what kind of life Sarah lived. Now, in this passage, Abraham has sent his servant to his homeland in order to find a bride for Isaac. Abraham didn't want Isaac to marry one of the pagan Hittite or Canaanite women in the land that they were living in. And so he told his servant, hey, go find a good girl for my boy and bring her back here. So that's the mission the servant is on when this passage begins. Then the servant took 10 of his master's camels and departed, taking all sorts of choice gifts from his master. And he arose and went to Mesopotamia, to the city of Nahor. And he made the camels kneel down outside the city by the well of water, at the time of the evening, the time when women go out to draw water. And he said, O Lord, God of my master Abraham, please grant me success today, and show steadfast love to my master Abraham. Behold, I am standing by the spring of water, and the daughters of the men of the city are coming out to draw water. Let the young woman to whom I shall say, please let down your jar that I may drink, and who shall say, drink, and I will water your camels. Let her be the one whom you have appointed for your servant Isaac. By this I shall know that you have steadfast love, my master. Being willing to give a person a drink of water is definitely a very distinctively kind thing. But also, being willing to provide water not just for the person, but also for the camels, that is a much higher level of kindness. Because notice, he doesn't say, and the person I say, also please water my camels while you're at it. He says the person who voluntarily offers it. So this is not looking for somebody who is just willing to help when asked, but this is looking for somebody who is actively seeking to show kindness. Now, why did the servant want that level of kindness? That's the question. Could it be because that level of kindness was what he had seen modeled by Sarah? Remember, he was looking for a bride for Isaac. So he was looking for someone who would fit in with Abraham's family. He was looking for somebody who could take Sarah's place as sort of matriarch, even though it was, patriarchal. I mean, this was the time of the literal patriarch, so obviously it was a male-led time, but the female head of the household, somebody who would be a good replacement for Sarah. And his test for a replacement for Sarah is kindness. Somebody who is kind, exceptionally kind. You see, what Sarah left behind was not just the love between her and Abraham and her and Isaac, but also the kindness and the example of kindness. In Matthew chapter 5, verses 14 through 16, it says this: You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden, nor do people light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a stand, that it gives light to all the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven. These are the words of Yeshua to his disciples. And essentially what he was teaching the people to do is to set a good example. Set a good example in the same way that Sarah set a good example. But when we talk about setting a good example, we're not just saying set a good example in the sense that you need to act good when people are watching.
Hey, I brought you some coffee.
Aww.
You've just been working so hard. I'm so proud of you.
Aww.
All right, well, I'm going to go shopping. I'll be back in an hour.
All right.
Bye.
We kind of get the idea that Sarah was not a person who just put on a show. She was a person who was kind even when people aren't looking. In Matthew chapter 6, verses 1, Yeshua says, "Beware of practicing your righteousness before men, before other people, in order to be seen by them. For then you will have no reward from your Father who is in heaven." Here Yeshua is specifically speaking about doing good works to put on a show. What he's saying is don't do good works just to call attention to the fact that you're doing good works. Do good works because that's what you do. Do good works because even if nobody was watching, that is what you would do. And what we learn about Sarah is she set that good example. She was that good person even when people weren't watching. That's why the servant focused on the character trait of kindness and generosity as something to pick a bride for Isaac. So what are some ways we can show love to the people around us and set a good example for them? Yeah, I know. There's about a million. But let me know what you think in the comments. And if we gave you a laugh, give us a like. And if you learned something, give us a share. I'm the Messianic Torah dude. Shalom, and stay in the Word.